Do you sometimes ask yourself that how can we say no man succeeds as an island and then turn around and talk about boundaries at the same time? Are these type of questions the reason why you have no healthy boundaries in your life? Why, your life is like this free highway upon which anybody can ride at any time and at any speed and get away with it? Or maybe you tried setting these personal boundaries, but at the end of the day, you found yourself trapped and isolated within these thick walls that have been built by your very own hands. Well, if you're having any of such questions or you fall into any of these categories, then this video is for you, because watching this video till the end will help you understand what setting healthy boundaries really mean and why you need them in the first place. Hi, welcome to Shanti Bloom. If you are new here, my name is Chantal, and after watching this video, please consider subscribing and joining this beautiful family of bloomers. Yes, here we bloom. Here you're going to learn applicable principles, simple practical steps that are going to help you move away from that dreaded place of feeling stuck over to where you bloom and flourish in your everyday life, just the way you were designed to. That said, let's get into our topic of today, which is all about setting healthy personal boundaries. Right, when you hear the word boundary, what do you think of? What comes to mind? For me, I think about a line. I think about a separation. If you were to look at the dictionary for the simplest definition of a boundary, one of them even says that it is a line that marks the limit of an area. Now, that's a simple definition for a boundary. If we have to talk about healthy personal boundaries, we have to take that definition even deeper. We have to expand on it, because the wrong understanding or the wrong definition of healthy boundaries is the reason why a lot of people shy away from setting boundaries. And what are some of these wrong definitions? What are some of the wrong conceptions that we have about setting healthy personal boundaries? One of them is that setting a healthy personal boundary means to build up this thick, immovable wall with no opening. With this type of boundary, you only get trapped because it is a thick, immovable wall with no opening. Even though it will provide you some safety from being physically or emotionally or financially, abused or being taken advantage of, it will also prevent any good thing that was coming to you from coming in, because it is a thick wall. It will also prevent you from being of any influence to anybody beyond those walls, because you are equally trapped in there. And the people who often build boundaries in this way are people who have undergone a lot of, or who have experienced a lot of hurt in the past. They have been, violated, they have been taken advantage of, they have been manipulated. So they get so angry and they're like, hey, I'm just going to build up this wall. They have gone through this bitterness to the point where they're like, you know what, I'm not doing this anymore. They've gone over to, goodgirl.com and sign out, goodboy.com, sign out, greatpastor.com, sign out. And they're like, here, there is a wall. I have nothing to do with anybody anymore. And I believe that many of us, in one way or the other, have built such walls before. It may not be very obvious, but I can still look in my life and see times when, because I've been hurt or because somebody did something, you somehow, not intentionally, but if you're not careful, you build a wall, instead of building a boundary. But then it only traps you in there and you cannot be of influence to anybody, and you also prevent any other good that would have come to you. People who also see boundaries like these thick walls end up not setting boundaries at all, because they're afraid that they may get disconnected and then they may end up lonely. But if you understand what healthy boundaries really mean, you will realize that not having healthy boundaries means that you will be in the middle of a thick crowd, surrounded by everything, anyhow, anytime, and yet feel so lonely. Remember that loneliness is not limited to the absence of people. You can still be in a crowd and feel lonely, and that is a very, very painful kind of loneliness. Another wrong definition is when people equate setting healthy boundaries with being mean, right? To show that I am setting healthy personal boundaries, I have to be mean, I have to be nasty, I just have to make sure that I don't understand anybody. That shows that I'm strong and I have boundaries. That is a wrong definition of setting healthy boundaries. There is already a lot of hatred going on in the world, a lot of mean people going on, all over the place. We don't have to add to that meanness. We are called to be the light and to be the salt of the world. So if setting boundaries means that I'm going to be mean, then of course we are going to shy away from it. I will personally shy away from it. But being kind and being nice can still exist or coexist with boundaries. That's why people automatically conclude that, if somebody is nice and they are kind, then they are pushover because they probably do not have boundaries. Wait until you cross those boundaries, then you will realize that their niceness and their kindness was by choice and not by default, and not because you manipulated them into being nice and being kind. So please, setting boundaries does not mean that you should go around being nasty, being unkind, being mean, refusing to live at peace with people, refusing to understand people. I know that there is somewhere where we have to strike that balance, and I'm coming to that. But the foundation of setting healthy boundaries is not for you to show how mean you can be to others. The third misconception we have about setting healthy personal boundaries is that we limit it to just saying no. There is more to setting boundaries than just saying no. And at times we also think that if I say no, then I'm a bad person. And we equate a yes to being a good and a kind person. And our society really manipulates us to feel this way. Like if I say no, then I'm automatically a bad person. And if I say yes and let people have their way all the time, then I am a good and a nice person. And the fertile ground for this kind of manipulation is when there is lack of clarity of self, there's lack of clarity of purpose, you have not yet overcome self-doubt, there's a lot of lack of self-confidence, then that is a fertile ground for this kind of manipulation to take place. But I'd like to tell you that there are a lot of yeses that come from a very hateful place, selfish place, manipulative place. There are a lot of manipulations that hide behind some of the yeses that we give or that we receive. And on the other hand, there are a lot of behind the no's that we sometimes give or receive. There is a lot of honesty, care and genuine love. And I think that is why God does not only look at our actions and our words, but He looks more at our heart and our motives behind the things that we do. The last and the most common misconception about setting healthy personal boundaries is that setting boundaries will make me a selfish person. Recently in one of my live streams, I was talking about how to, find balance in life. And I was trying to explain my own opinion about this thing of God first, others second, my own self last. That is not really about you going out there and being busy serving God and others. And when you are all done and worn out and burnt out, then you come now and you think about yourself. Putting God first in your life simply means doing life God's way. Approaching every aspect of your life God's way and for God's glory, including saying no, including self-care, including setting those boundaries. They should be said God's way and for God's glory. And doing life God's way will automatically put you in the position of service. And then when it comes to the part of yourself, the scripture that always comes to mind is, if any man comes after me, let him deny himself, let him carry his cross and follow me. So God expects that this service that we are rendering, His way and for His glory should come from a selfless place. We should do it, with some selflessness. But remember, being selfless does not mean not taking care of yourselves. In fact, the lack of self-care sometimes comes from selfishness. You are just selfishly chasing your ambitions to the point where you have no time for self-care. And because you have no time for self-care, you are thrown out of balance. And your imbalance also affects other people who are connected to you. Remember I said, this whole thing is a network. So those who are connected to you are also set off balance. To me, this is more of a selfish act than setting boundaries. So what is a better way of looking at this concept of setting healthy personal boundaries? So I want you to look at it more like a fence, right? That can let in some things and not let it others, right? Look at it like a gate with an opening, a gate that has a door. Sometimes it would open and sometimes it will close. Look at it like a door. You know, at night that same door closes for safety, but that same door in the morning will open up to let in loved ones, right? Look at it like a semi-permeable membrane that lets in some things. You know, we have these membranes in our bodies that allow some molecules or ions to go through, and it doesn't allow others to go through. But even that same membrane that is allowing this molecule to pass through it right now, maybe later on it will not see the need to allow that molecule to pass through, and so it is going to kind of withhold that molecule from coming in or from going out. And all of this is an attempt to keep your body in equilibrium, right? To keep that, maintain that balance. So I think that boundaries, healthy boundaries, should be like that, because the same boundaries I set 5 years ago may not be the same boundaries that work for me today. And the boundaries that I'm setting for myself today may not be the same boundaries that will work for me 5 years from now, depending on where God has me. So it is important that we keep these boundaries in that manner. It cannot be this big thick wall that is so rigid. It cannot move, it cannot change. There is no opening to let in anything or even to let you get out and influence people. You know, if that is the kind of boundary you set, you will only end up trapped, isolated, lonely, and disconnected. Now I'm going to leave you with 2 important assignments. Assignment number 1 is for you to identify which of these wrong definitions have been holding you back from setting healthy personal boundaries in your life, and to allow yourself to be transformed by the renewing of your mind through God's word. Assignment number 2, and very, very important, is to know who you are. Know your identity. Find clarity. Who am I? Where am I right now? Where do I want to go? Or where does God want to take me, and why? When you find the answers to these questions, it will help you to overcome self-doubt. And when you overcome self-doubt, it will protect you from being manipulated into saying yes when you want to say no, or saying no when you want to say yes. If you will really, really set healthy personal boundaries, you have to know who you are and you have to know what you want from life. So in my next video, I'm going to be sharing with you some simple practical steps that can help you, to set healthy boundaries for yourself. But before that, I just thought that it was really important that we understand the concept of setting healthy personal boundaries before we just jump into some do's and don'ts. So I really hope that you found this helpful. If you did, then you know what to do. Give it a thumbs up, and also let me know in the comment section what are those aspects of this video that really stood out to you and that blessed you. And don't forget to share it so that somebody else can be blessed. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next video.